temos a Hani Forster, que é a diretora executiva do Centro Africano de Estudos sobre Democracia e Direitos Humanos, que vai falar sobre a exploração das funções e responsabilidades do mandato da Relatora Especial das Nações Unidas, estratégias e melhores práticas para a organização da sociedade civil e defensores dos direitos humanos, colaborarem com a Relatora Especial. Vamos ter depois uma visão geral do mandato da Relatora Especial da Comissão Africana, incluindo o seu papel como ponto focal sobre represálias e presidente do grupo de trabalhos sobre liberdade de associação na África, em África, métodos eficazes para organizações da sociedade civil e defensores dos direitos humanos trabalharem com a Relatora Especial. Portanto, vamos ocupar esta uma hora que nos resta com essas duas profissões. Boa tarde. Please.
Thank you very much. Let me confess that I didn't know I was presenting now, but I will attempt to give a brief of the mandate of the Special Rapporteur and how we came to be part of the working group. Perhaps I'm not too sure whether they are aware of the Forum of NGOs and how it was through the Forum of NGOs that we've been able to involve civil society in the work of the African Commission. That's another presentation. But I'm just going to zero in to tell a little bit about the story of how we got engaged in working on the mandate of the Special Rapporteur, Freedom of Association and Assembly. We do know that it became a very important issue when there became a rise in the arrest, detention of human rights defenders. And one of the working groups of the forum started putting together stories, starting putting together experiences of human rights defenders and how they've been treated. So one of the resolutions was that the African Commission should come up with that particular mechanism. And that mechanism, we said, okay, but before it does, the African Commission needs to work with civil society to come up with the terms of reference. And so we had a working group under the leadership of Ren Alapini Gansu, and we were able to have the sub-regional focal points of the forum work together with the Special Rapporteur to come up with a situational analysis. What is happening in relation to freedom of association and assembly? And we also were able to bring in other colleagues and other partner organizations that we are working on freedom of association and assembly. We expanded it to also look at the other of the four freedoms: the freedom of religion, freedom of opinion, freedom of expression. So we brought them all together. And we had a couple of meetings, consultative meetings. And that was how we were also able to bring in ICNL, because ICNL also does a lot of work in that area. And we came up with the study. It took a while, but we were able to go through it, and the African Commission was able to adopt it. But we found that it was not enough. We needed to go a little bit further. And that was to prepare guidelines, because we found out that in some countries, you need to ask for permission to protest. In other countries, you don't. But even if you don't, there is also the likelihood that you will face police force. Yes, the use of force by security officials. So we felt that that was also something that we need to take into consideration. And the guidelines were developed. It also took a while because of the consultations. But at the end of the day, we came up with the guidelines. And we've been using the guidelines to facilitate the work of the Special Rapporteur in the person of Commissioner Ngoy. And what was also interesting was the fact that we even had to have the different members of the working group. We had in-country training. For example, in the Gambia, we had some very archaic laws in relation to association and assembly. And we used it to work with the National Assembly to organize training on the use of the guidelines. And it was during that time we were also able to convince them that they need to put into place a committee on human rights and constitutional arrangements. So we were able to launch that particular committee. And today it's functioning as well as they believe it should, although we do have some question marks. And we had most members of the working group were also able to organize national and regional workshops to encourage the use of the guidelines. And this is one of the ways that civil society has been engaged in the work of the African Commission and also in the development of mechanisms. Most of the mechanisms, initially, it was like was previously mentioned, there were special rapporteurs. But as we went forward, working together in the forum, we felt that there was enough experience and expertise among civil society to help the commissioners, to help the African Commission. Because I'm sure we all know that they are human. There are only 11 of them. And they're supposed to work in all the 55 African countries, 54 minus Morocco. But then it was also important for us to recognize the fact that the promotion and protection of human rights is a collective responsibility. And we cannot, if we do have the knowledge and the skills, the experience and the expertise, we should also be doing our own. And if you look at the development of the mandates as far back as the 1990s, even the first mandate of the Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Women in Africa, you will see that it was civil society that even developed the mandate of the Special Rapporteur, working together with a key commissioner and then having it adopted by the African Commission. And that went through even in 2002 when we worked on the Robben Island guidelines, and that was to do with torture. We called the document, it was previously called the follow-up committee on the Robben Island guidelines, because when it was adopted in 2002, it was felt that there was need for the committee to work closely with the mandate of prisons. And what was also interesting was under the collaboration of the Addis Ababa roadmap, we also found out that it was very crucial that there was collaboration between the Committee on the Prevention of Torture, which is the follow-up committee, to work with the SPT, that is the subcommittee of OPCAT, and because they do have mandatory visits, and they can also carry out supervised visits, or they can unannounced visits to countries. So, and then for the Committee on the Prevention of Torture, we had challenges because the committee cannot visit a country without permission from the state, whereas the SPT could. So that collaboration was also very useful in making sure that anytime there is a mission to Africa by the SPT, there was also space for members of the Committee on the Prevention of Torture was also invited and had access to information that they were seeking in their work. It's just like something that we are experiencing at the moment. You find out that there are times that the mandate holders are not allowed to visit. They are not here on official visits. But these academic visits, solidarity visits, are very useful in making sure that they have a taste, because without this academic visit, I don't think these mandate holders will have access to the information, first-hand information from those who are experiencing, those who are seeing what is happening on the ground and sharing it with them. And some of these participants do not even have access to come to Banjul or to where the African Commission is going to be held. So to come back to the Freedom of Constitutional Assembly and the importance of the Addis Ababa roadmap in bringing in these two mandate holders that are working on association and peaceful assembly, I think is very crucial. And this particular mandate does have a lot of work to do. I'm sure some of us have been following the they do not have access to, or even the intelligence to get information on what is happening on ground. So the collaboration between the mechanisms, the mandates, and civil society is very key. When information started coming out, you find out that you are like, okay, who do I contact? You have information, but as civil society who are supposed to be sharing this information, you need to be able to reach out to one or two people, reliable people who will give you accurate information, so that you're able to make sure that you get the wheels of information going out, getting to the mandate holders, getting to the relevant people in country, out of the country, and also being able to make sure that at least a remedy is being worked on as quickly as possible. The two mandates, I believe there have been very successful stories in terms of making sure that they are able to, because even when Minor was there, we had pushed him to do something on vulnerable groups, because those are the ones who face the challenge. Because if you do know your rights and you are able to stand up, sometimes the perpetrators, it takes time for them to actually approach you. When we started working as a group, the forum has 5 sub-regional focal points, and as the chair had indicated earlier, we also have developed a Lusophone network since 2019. And they've been trained, and they've also been, and today at the African Commission, they're able to produce their reports, the reports of their countries, alternative reports. They are also able to stand up and make statements. Some of them have even gotten observer status, which was not happening. But we are, I see Emilio smiling, but no, they should not rest on their oars. There is a lot more work to be done, because we know that Equatorial Guinea in the Lusophone network is a bit quiet. You know, Guinea-Bissau is trying, but Cape Verde is also trying, but you need to be able to come together. Because if Angola is doing well in the area of freedom of constitutional assembly, and Mozambique is a bit towards a bit of conservatism, I think we need to be able to bring in these activists together to learn. I would have loved to see some of the other participants from the other Lusophone countries here, and also from other Anglophone. Yes, there are some of us here, but French-speaking countries, so that we are able to experience, share the rich experiences. We have rich experiences in Burkina Faso, in Mali. Civil society have been very active. Yes, the Commission will not move if us as civil society do not stand up and push them. Yes, the states, because they are in the middle. The states want them to do what they want. But we are not telling them to do what we want. We are telling them to do what is right, what is in their statutes, what is in the African Charter. That is what we are asking them to do, to promote and protect the rights of the citizens of Africa. As such, you find out that we are on their conscience, the conscience of the commissioners, the conscience of the mandate holders, to do the right thing. And sometimes it's not too easy. And we've seen it in Zimbabwe, when Zimbabwe had their call. And it was problematic. How? Because at that point in time, the state of Zimbabwe was very aggressive. They want to make sure that we don't even call the name of Zimbabwe with anything. And those of you who were coming out of Zimbabwe to the African Commission sessions, you experienced the wrath of the state of Zimbabwe. Even those who were assisting were also in the line of fire. We remember that session when the report of the African Commission was rejected by the heads of states and government because a visit was made to Zimbabwe and the report was sent to them. They refused to look at the report until it was too late and the report went, and they objected at the Assembly of Heads of State and Government. The report was sent to them, they never acted. But when it got there, they blocked it. So now the heads of state say it has to go back for them to commit. And that was also something very problematic. We see that the mandate holders also come under a lot of fire. So we have to make sure that we are on our toes to know what is happening and how we should be able to help them. The independence of the commission. I don't know how many of us are following the work of the commission, but it is important because if the commission is working for us and the mandates that we are interested in, the mandate of human rights defenders, the mandate of freedom of speech and assembly, the mandate of prisons, the mandate of torture, amongst others. It is important that we are well versed in any information. We have to make sure that the information is factual. We have to make sure that, because some of us have got into the line of fire. Angola, they've arrested and killed a number of human rights defenders. In fact, 3 of them. One is this person, that person, that person. And then you receive a letter. You, Hannah, you always tell us these stories. Who told you? What do you expect me to do? And immediately I go deaf. Yes, because it is not their business where I got the information from, but it is their business to tell us whether it's true or not, and to make sure that they deal with the issue, with the subject. So turning into whistleblowers does not help, because we've seen people who've gone and told stories about other human rights defenders, and before you know it, karma caught up with them, and they have to now come back to their colleagues to be defended. So we as human rights defenders, I believe we've got a lot of work to do, and a lot of it depends on our integrity. If we are to make impact on the work of these mechanisms, we have to be very cautious. We have to make sure we have the right information, the specific information. We document that information, and it is not to say it was Colette who told Hannah. No, it is not your business who told me to be able to say it at the opening ceremony of the commission. It is not your business. So long as the information is true, it is for the state to tell us whether they did it or not, and to exonerate themselves. The rest should be history. So let me reiterate this point before I conclude. The mechanisms were developed with the participation, with the contribution of civil society. But to make them work, civil society has to put in more effort. They have to work harder to make sure that they provide the meat with which these mechanisms can make impact. If we do not, then they become mere offices, like the one that Chidi mentioned, the one on extrajudicial executions. That particular mechanism has been in place for how many years? For over 2.5 decades or so, but it has not made much impact. We remember we used to look forward to receiving the report in which the mandate holder would say, you see, my report is going to be very short. He said, everything you see is human rights. So it's difficult to start saying about extrajudicial, because in the country where he came from, they were carrying out extrajudicial executions. And because he was an appointee of the government, he was afraid to say anything. And today, if we see a commission, an African commission, without some of these government appointees, it was because civil society kicked against and said it is incompatible with the work that we're expected to do, to be a minister or to be a representative, an ambassador of the government. Yes, it was difficult in the beginning, but the campaign got ground. And today you cannot see a minister of any state becoming part of the African Commission. So we have to keep our eyes open, and we have to make sure that we take seriously the role that we want to do. If we are talking about association, whether we are talking about assembly, these are key, and they hinge on every action that we carry out in the work that we do. It is key that we are able to provide the information. Yes, these things, insofar as they happen in Africa, I want to also posit that it happens in the global village that we live in, as Gina has already indicated. We've seen it happen. Last week I was in Geneva, and there was a panel on Eritrea. There's also a lot of freedom of assembly, extrajudicial executions. But then for them, they have refused. They've refused that the independent expert gets into Eritrea. And this has been happening for a very long time. It's the same with the fact-finding mission on Sudan. I was there for the presentation of their report, and that was one of the things that was out there in their interim report. So in the absence of these mandate holders having access to information, I think it falls squarely on us as civil society on the ground to make sure that information, relevant information, that important information that would make a difference in the lives of victims and survivors are given and made available to the mandate holders. So I would urge you, each one of us, we do have it's a collective responsibility to take our work very serious. Yes, we've pushed for the mandate, but we also have to make that the mandate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm really grateful to be here. After a long time, I think, to see myself in Angola as sitting on the podium with Anna Foster, my sister here, and I'm so grateful as well to the special mandate holders that were here with us, that have made time to be part of this important process. UN Special Rapporteur and African Commission, Chairperson on Human Rights Defenders. And I want to congratulate the conveners, Takesha, the partners, Mosaiko. We've heard so much about you and Asha. I think these are the long-standing partners of IJPD. This organization, it's under the leadership that has been exposed, that has been doing what Hannah has mentioned, working at the regional level and bringing this expertise in Angola. So thank you for coming, and the expert as well that attended from the region. So my presentation, Hannah has made it very easy. She has given the background. I think when we look at freedom of association and assembly, I think as she has mentioned that, it facilitates other rights. It is the hallmark or the cornerstone, is the cornerstone of our democracy. Without this right, our democracy is shunned, our democracy does not succeed, because then the proponent of these rights are not enjoying the benefits that are attached to it. So we came in working in this mechanism for many years, and coming in with maybe our qualifications from university, but no background whatsoever. And we're learning together. I know even Professor Chidi, him as well, I think Hannah, Tukumbo Ige, Ibrahim Khan, and Ahmed Mutala, those were like our professors. They were doing a number of researches and making sure there's access. So us engaging with Kutakesha now, before the leader of this Kutakesha was heading Ajapere. At the time, the commission adopted a resolution in 2009. That is the resolution that Hannah spoke about, that recognized the need, to address the reprisals that were affecting human rights defenders, civil society, particularly those that were dealing with governance issues, those that were exposing corruption, those that are speaking, promoting the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So the reports of the commission from civil society, it was just too overwhelming. Now the process of developing a mechanism to protect defenders and civil society from 2019, without resources, without support from member states, civil society, there were about 6 or 7 that worked together from sub-regions, working with the African Center, that always have to look for resources, and sometimes donors' doors get shut. We don't know for what reason, but we were now working with our own resources and now making meaning and understanding of the African Charter itself, particularly Article 45. And by 2017, we had done, and we produced, as she has said, the guidelines on freedom of association and assembly. Those guidelines adoption, I think for us, it was like, wow, we have done it, and it's time for us to relax. Freedom of association and assembly will be respected. However, we realize that these guidelines are not popularized. Many are not familiar with the state parties, the civil society. So we had to come back again as now we are now referred to as a support group member. How do we make impact? How do you make these guidelines known on the ground so that people can use them? So we translated them in AU official languages. We've got Portuguese version, English, French, Kiswahili, and what language have I forgotten? But those are the languages that we have. However, many people still did not understand, even member states, because we've seen in Zimbabwe, we've seen in Zambia, we've seen in Malawi, and now in Angola, that these processes of developing laws continue to take place. And the way it happens in an arbitrary manner. There is no proper consultation where people, citizens, or human rights defenders are called forward to engage member states so that they come with the laws that respect the treaties that have ratified. So the guidelines support member states. It gives them steps that they can follow and how to go about ensuring that they are incorporating human rights in their laws. Now, all these laws that we have in the bills, some have to be signed. They've happened in exclusion of a familiarization or of reflecting on the guidelines. Now, this is where civil society needs to come in. I am very happy about this gathering, because it means the civil society in Angola, you are reflecting on what is happening in terms of conducting the assemblies. What are the process that the citizens need to take before they organize an assembly? How many people are required to be in an assembly? And what does the African Commission guidelines stipulate in terms of the processes that needs to be followed before you can conduct an assembly? We've seen law enforcement, even in South Africa, using excessive powers. Many people have been murdered, others have been injured, others have been arbitrarily arrested, being charged, despite the fact that we have these guidelines. The guidelines provide an opportunity for state parties, especially law enforcement, to take account, protecting the rights of women, persons with disability, the elderly, persons that are vulnerable to participate, because participating, as Hannah has said, as a citizen in an assembly is internationally recognized. There's absolutely nothing wrong that you are doing. The Universal Declaration, it recognizes all of us with that duty. We have the duty, the responsibility to play a role as citizens. So what we are doing is already established. There is no need for member states to behave in a manner that they're behaving. Now looking at the registration of association, I think during 2014, Hannah, you were here in Angola coming to support, and the African Commission was holding a session. And we could see the resistance, the efforts that were really trying to restrict participation of human rights defenders. The Commission was actually intimidated because some of the organizations were informed that you should not speak inside the session. And that time, the officials from Angola, they were showing this hostility. That hostility was so blatant that those who dared to speak about what was happening in the country, they will have a walkout. And some of them did that. But I remember the statement that you drafted, Hannah, on behalf of the NGOs, led to the adoption of 2 resolutions, very progressive resolution, the resolution that protects the rights of persons, sexual minority groups, resolution 2775, and resolution 273, for protection, for member states to protect the rights of citizens, the human rights defenders, and actually to have a law, and for the special rapporteur to document reprisals and to present this inside the session of the African Commission. Now I want to congratulate you Angolans that we are now, that was in 2014, it's 2024. 10 years ago, we were here in this country and you were supported. These are the mechanisms that you need to champion yourself. You need to read, go deeper in it. I know there's a subsequent resolution that was adopted now, integrating all human rights defenders to be protected. I'm not sure it's resolution 3, 4 or something, but that resolution now, it recognized everyone. Because after coming from Angola, there was this resistance. The reprisals was increasing, even at the level of the African Commission, where the NGO Forum, participates and conducts its processes. We have seen state parties, like acting contradictory. We've seen that those organizations that had observer status working on sexual minority getting stripped off of their observer status. We've seen that the guidelines actually, what it did, it recognizes that in Angola, when you submit the papers for recognition of your organization, depositing that information to the registrar, automatically it's recognized as a formally registered. But there has been attempt to stop that, to go the rigorous route of registering taking several months, and when it takes several months, you can't even open up a bank account, you can't do your job. If you do your job, you are recognized as a person who is operating illegal. We've seen them coming, interjecting the NGO forum. I think the African Center, they were imposed that we will have an engagement in your program of the civil society. We are going, Hannah had to give in. It was the Minister of Foreign Affairs, but some high-ranking official who dictated in the NGO forum processes that they will speak. And they will speak, they were lecturing to us like high school children, speaking to us in that tone, you know, that, but at that time we had already recognized that the policy in Angola is very progressive, where a person, by just merely submitting, you have qualified. Now they were coming to the African Commission, claiming that all those organizations from Angola are illegal, they're operating illegal, and the African Commission must remove their observer status. Others that have applied, their observer status has not been provided or granted. So we are very honored that some of you are in this platform that Hannah said to, the Lusophone platform. The Lusophone platform really, it helps, because when you look at Angola, Mozambique, and other countries from members of the African continent speaking Lusophone, they seems to be not engaging on the issues, on the African issue, on the African platform. So visibility is being created, and you need to, as she has said, that engage in this, get yourself educated, participate in this. And yes, we do agree. I have said it many times that this government, Angola, they are shooting themselves on their feet. They have someone like Yushia de Salveira, the Kutakesha director, who has got the information. We have even recommended, they can even make the chairperson of the Human Rights Commission of the country. You know, so we need to continue opening doors, because a lot has happened. And working with the African Commission is another, Commissioner Manuela as well, Special Rapporteur on Prisons. She needs to be contacted. We used to have a commissioner in my country, and I know in the Gambia as well, the Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Women. They have a commissioner there, and they are engaging, because that person is a national of the Gambia, or is the national of Angola. We had a special rapporteur before traveling to the African Commission. We had a civil society gathering. So she must not leave Angola and attend the session without engaging with the civil society. In that way, you are holding the special rapporteur accountable. Unfortunately, apparently she's busy, was not able to be with us today. But it is your role, it is your mandate. Whether they're busy, but you must find a way of engaging. By the time you speak there, she is already aware and familiar of the work that you are doing. Yeah, let me end up here because there's a lot that we have been covering at civil society and working together with others. We are advocating, for example, now for those laws in Zimbabwe and anyway, especially after this money laundering, I don't know how to pronounce that, but this is a international regulating body that is monitoring corruption. Forcing now state parties, they want to force compulsory registration, and especially if you're an international organization, and then also your resources, your funding, you know. And we know that member states, especially the banks, I know that there is an article about Standard Bank in South Africa. It's supporting a project in Nigeria, ECOP, where there's issues of climate change, where there's issues of grave human rights violations, and they want to go there and support that project. Why is Standard Bank going there? It's because they don't know that we are here. They don't know that people like ourselves are around where we can speak and hold them accountable. This is just an example of how this money laundering, that they want to impose it, that the civil society are involved in some of the dubious practices or businesses when it is actually themselves. So we refuse in South Africa for anything that's got to do with the amendment of our bill and to comply, for South Africa to comply or to show its compliance to the international regulating body. So we should look and read and see how the state want to use us, you know, as a scapegoat.
Muito obrigada, Ana. Muito obrigado, Carla. Vamos lá abrir então aqui uma sessão de discussões. Se calhar vamos 10 minutos, temos aí 10 minutos para frente. Já temos aí 2, 3, vamos fazer também 5 e vou pedir a vossa compreensão para priorizarmos aqueles colegas que não fizeram intervenções no primeiro painel e assim podermos todos participar. Já vejo aí 3, por favor. Sim. Microfone. Vou pedir também aos colegas para podermos ser sintéticos, permitirmos todos nós possamos participar. 2 minutos, por favor. 2 minutos mesmo.
Boa tarde a todas e todos. Chamo-me Elizabeth Campos André. Venho representar a Associação de Mulheres Direitos Humanos, a SPCP. E a questão que eu tenho é mais uma sugestão. Né? Nós já falamos que de conversa estamos todos cheios, e principalmente para nós aqui em Angola, né? Pelas questões que passam, pelas questões de repressão que a sociedade civil passa, já se falou da lei, já se falou de quase tudo. E nós, além dos ativistas, temos 4 ativistas presos, temos uma mulher também presa, né? Que é a Net Nahara, e nós, como a Organização de Mulheres que luta pelos direitos civis e políticos, temos importância, né? Precisamos que haja uma solução para que todos estejam e elas estejam fora, né, dessa questão. Mas a minha sugestão é exatamente na questão da parceria, que se calhar para que possamos fortificar a sociedade civil, né? Do jeito que os governos têm aquelas amizades, aquelas parcerias. Né? Eu acho que se a sociedade civil de África, no geral, tivesse o mesmo tipo de engajamento, parcerias também, eu acho que muita coisa seria ultrapassada. Porque nós só continuamos assim fragilizados. Por quê? Porque não temos fundo. E cada vez mais usa-se estratégias para quê? Para continuar a enfraquecer ainda mais a sociedade civil. Mas os partidos é uma coisa completamente diferente. E tem essas ligações, partidos de Angola, partidos de Moçambique, partidos da Nigéria, do Quênia, da África toda. Então, o que precisamos se avaliar para que as coisas vão mudando é que esse mesmo tipo de parceria que há nos partidos políticos haja também verdadeiramente na sociedade civil.
Obrigado.
Obrigado por uma debate a todos. Sou Luís David Dominado, da terceira divisão. Indo na linha da nossa colega, esta questão da parceria, ali a questão do apoio institucional e financeiro. A Comissão Africana trouxe aqui ideias que estão abertas a essa parceria, a esses apoios, sobretudo apoios institucionais. O que eu quero saber é, de fato, existe uma linha de financiamento para a sociedade civil ou para as organizações da sociedade civil registrada em África? Por outra, se existe, quais são os mecanismos que as mesmas organizações devem tomar para chegar até os mesmos financiamentos? Porque é aquilo que a colega já disse, um dos elementos que nos tem fragilizado é a falta de capacidade financeira para fazer face às necessidades que nos enviam. Então, isso é uma grande questão. Obrigado.
Obrigado. Boa tarde a todos e todas. Gilson Salucci é o meu nome. Como nós sabemos, não existe sociedade civil sem liberdade. Não existe defesa e luta pelos direitos humanos sem democracia real e efetiva. E a nossa realidade é atroz. Parece que encaminhamos para, efetivamente, a construção ou a consolidação do Estado autoritário por via legal em Angola. Já se falou aqui de manhã da proposta do novo Estatuto das ONGs, que procura cercear, que procura limitar, que procura tutelar a ação das ONGs. Mas também temos em discussão uma lei da segurança nacional, que de igual modo procura limitar, procura aquartelar as liberdades, direitos e garantias fundamentais. Pela experiência que tenho, e pergunto se terão lido, terão mantido contato com essas propostas, ou se, tendo em conta, obviamente, a experiência que têm, conhecem algum país em que há um órgão de Estado que passou a ser um polícia das organizações da sociedade civil. Esta é a minha questão. Obrigado.
Eu sou memória política, defensora dos direitos humanos no mundo. Gostava de fazer algumas perguntas, digamos, diretas. Em Angola tem duas regiões por quatro pedem independência por causa da maldição de recursos. Quando os governantes angolanos encontram recursos num determinado sítio, o povo é completamente escorraçado. Como pode ser a terceira, por se ter encontrado nele ouro, diamante e também materiais muito raros para telefones. Qual é a visão das Nações Unidas e da União Africana para revelar esses comportamentos colaborativos? A segunda pergunta, em relação à União Africana, como se classifica a União Africana em termos de intervenção na legislação? É uma delas. A terceira, o que a União Africana faz quando a comunicação com os governantes faz? Fica parado, cola as fotos dos ditadores ou famílias? E a última questão, eram muitas. Os golpes de Estado que acontecem na África não acontecem sem sinais. O que faz as Nações Unidas e a União Africana para que o governo e governantes não cheguem ao limite dos seus povos para que haja um golpe de Estado? São essas questões. Muito obrigado.
5 questões. Acho que Ana ou Carol, eu não vi que não sobre isso.
We cannot speak for the African Union, but what we can say would be from experience, how we have seen the African Commission dealt with some of these issues. And I am talking about the African Commission, not the African Union Commission. And one of your questions, how can the AU, I mean the African Commission, be rated on human rights issues. The African Commission, to my mind, has come a long way. This was a commission, like I said before, made up of ambassadors representing their countries, or even ministers of their countries. You found out that Chibi had also alluded to it, where in Algeria, when civil society spoke or criticized Algeria, they made sure that one of their ministers on the commission. So if any NGO dared to from Algeria or had information from Algeria speak up, then we make sure that you don't get the floor again. But we fought it, and we said ministers and ambassadors cannot be members of the commission. So that helped a bit. But that does not mean that we, at the African Commission, you have what we call GONGOs, government, non-governmental organizations. And these GONGOs, let me tell you, they are very strong. How? They have a lot of money. And they also have the force of government carrying them. So these people are being funded and they come in and they try to offset the mark that independent organizations are making. And let me say that, in fact, I was smiling when Odinkalu was talking about some of these states not liking people to criticize them, you know. But the forum was classified as a group, a platform that names and shames states. And because what people were saying was what was happening on ground in those states, but then they saw it as shaming them. Some of them said society don't tell the truth. But they cannot exonerate themselves because the information that come out was very true. At some point in the campaign on Zimbabwe, I went into Zimbabwe twice on the solidarity mission. And I get my visa on arrival. And I made sure I am not there more than 72 hours. By the time, because they knew my name, when they, at first when they see Hannah Foster, they expect to see a white old woman. But it's yes. So by the time they realize it's this ugly black lady that is causing us the problems, I am out. So you find out that even when their delegation comes to the session, you find out that even when you greet them, they don't want to talk to you. But for me, I went into Zimbabwe for those solidarity missions with other colleagues. And during one of them, we went through a time when the head of the trade union had his arm broken because of some fracas they had in the state. So because we are the ones going to speak on behalf of them, and I have to know. So it is I cannot go and wait to see who told me, or it was Jim who told me. Yes, you can tell me, give me the information. Rest assured that I will also verify the information, so that when I stand there to speak on your behalf, I'm speaking with authority, knowing that what we are saying is the truth and nothing but the truth, and we don't want any extra dollars. But the commission has they make decisions and cannot make them. The one decision they made, and they were corrected, was that But they granted observer status to CAF. And some of the states decided on that. And now for the commission to grant observer status to CAF. Women. Hey. There was a lot of push and pull. Civil society was like, oh, these are experts. These are professionals who know their line of work, and the decision they've made is within their mandate, and they followed the criteria for granting of observer status. What? The AUC dug in their heels, and there was no other thing to do, I suppose. We were upset when they had to withdraw the status because they were in the right. Apart from that, the Commission has been doing marvelous work. The country rapporteurs have been trying. The mechanisms have also been doing their work. If you look at what they've been doing before now, even the cases, the communications that they've been working on, it has increased. So they are doing a lot of work, and they've even given opinions to the court in line with their mandates. What they need is more support and more vigilance from civil society to be able to tell them, hey, we are watching, and for them to know that civil society is watching, and there are certain things that are not accepted, and they should make sure that they make it right. The other question that I also wanted to pick on is how, what do you call it, corruption or even conflict or what is handled. Corruption is handled at the level of the African Union Commission. Although African Commission is also working on some of these issues, it is yet to come up with a mechanism for it. But basically, it's worked on at the level of the AUC. And strengthening partnerships. The strengthening of partnerships is something that is at the heart, at the core of the work that we do at the NGO. And if you look at the special interest groups at the forum, they are aligned with the mechanisms of the African Commission, so that those mechanisms can have information from civil society working on the ground. Many times you find out that most of those people who are, or groups that are in those, we call them special interest groups, have been there since the beginning. And they have history with them to help the mechanism develop further. And we also have the mechanism itself in those special interest groups meetings that are held twice a year during the forum of NGOs. So that also enriches the partnership between civil society and the African Commission. What is also important for us to note is the fact that the forum has worked very closely with the Commission. Initially, we used to campaign in the corridors, and we were not allowed into the Commission. For some of us who don't even have observer status, we cannot enter, we cannot talk. But then amongst ourselves, we've come to an understanding that has enriched their experiences and encouraged a lot of them to get observer status. And to help, we have a core group that also helps them with their statements. And within the different organizations, you find out that based on their expertise, they come together. And when it's time to come up with a resolution or recommendation, we encourage them to put together what they want. Today, as we speak, as something that has come out of that partnership, is at every session of the African Commission, the NGOs are committed to make a statement. Tell me, in which of the other organs of the African Union Commission, the African Commission has done a lot. All the recommendations from the forum is reviewed as part of their outcome document to see what they can also take out and come up with resolutions. You find out that, especially in some of these trouble spots, for example, in Sudan, many times we've come up since 2003, when the people who work on Sudan come up and bring in, we come up with a statement, resolution. In most times, we find out that the African Commission also looks at what we have prepared and come up with a resolution on Sudan, on Eritrea, on Chad, on Mali, on Eswatini, and others. So for us, it is a space, it is a platform that we need to maintain. Once we lose that space, we will not be able to get the African Commission to listen to us. We know that the African Commission has been facing a lot of challenges from states and even from the EU. So we have to make sure that we hold on to that space. For a long time, we had challenges in terms of funding. And because of that, those challenges, because we were saying these NGOs, they just make noise. But then, when some of our resolutions and recommendations started coming out from the resolutions of the African Commission, then they started taking us seriously. And for us, we are not saying you should not go to the African court. What we are saying is that Africa is a continent of peoples. And it's a group of people who value dialogue. So we want to dialogue first before we go to court. Because we know once you go to court, we might not be talking to each other again. So we encourage dialogue, we encourage mediation, we encourage the fact that people need to sit together and try to resolve issues that could bring conflict into the society. So it's very important for us, as civil society, that is what we promote. But if it goes beyond a certain threshold, yes, we go to the court. And some of us who have litigation in their mandates do go to court. Yes, and if there are other organizations who have relevant information, then they provide. But partnership is core. You cannot have one organization. One tree does not make a forest. And I keep insisting that there is need for us to work together. And working together will also ensure that we also protect each other. I remember a particular story. There was this particular person from a particular country. He came because there was this burning issue in their country. And he started talking to people. That was his first time to the commission during the forum of NGOs. And he said he wanted to make a statement. His organization does not have observer status. So there was this person who said to him, just go, if you talk to one of these people who have observer status, you can speak. Then somebody else said to him, if you want advice, go to the secretariat of the forum and they will tell you. So when he came, I asked him, and some of the allegations were very serious. So I said to him, you know what? Can you vouch that this information is correct? Make sure, go through it and tell me. If it is correct, give it to us. And we'll work with the drafting committee and we'll come up with it. I asked him, do you want to go home? He said, yes. Where is your family? He said, all at home. I said, you see this thing, if you read it in that commission, you will get into trouble. So now what I'm going to do was, I said, make 2 copies. One will go to the country rapporteur of that particular country, and the other one will go to the thematic rapporteur of that theme. And we made an extra copy to make sure that the chairperson of the African Commission knew what was happening. And that was how we saved the life of that person, because it was one of these countries, if he went home, he will be killed. How many times have we asked Lucia to come back to Banjul? Because they were following her in Dakar. And you see, this man, I said, okay, come home, come back to Gambia. The commission was still going on, and we took her to the mandate folder and said, this is the report we have. We called her to come back. Please. So the special rapporteur had the responsibility to announce that there was a human rights defender from Angola who was being harassed and intimidated, and we want the delegation of Angola to make sure that she's safe, he or she is safe. And you know, they will now take the floor. No, we are not doing anything, but if we know who the person is, we will take care. So they say, okay, we'll do bilateral. So they will have bilateral with the country rapporteur. And that makes sure that we tell them that we know that you are doing this, so make sure you take care of it, because our eyes are on you. So working together, only working together can give you that insurance. Yes, I know some of us want to, hey, yes, Power Mike, you were able to do it, but in this work that we are doing today, one person can. People are saying, oh, Hannah, oh, Hannah. But if all of you were not working, can Hannah bravely stand up and champion the rights of civil society? No, I would not. So when we say we are doing, yes, we've made progress, it is because all of us have put in efforts to make sure that the voices of civil society, the voice of the voiceless, those people who are being, whose rights are being violated, that we are amplifying their voices. Otherwise, I cannot do it alone, and I'm sure Colette cannot do it alone. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I think Hannah has covered a lot. I'll just highlight where there were some issues that I feel that we can add. She emphasized the principle of partnership, collaboration. I think this one, I've seen it very, impactful on matters such as where a state has deposited its report. Angola has submitted 2 reports, and we've seen how civil society partnered in putting together issues, because the African Charter has got how many articles? Is it we have Article 45, close to 60 articles. Now, if you, as Hannah says, that you are a tree and you think you can make a forest out of yourself, it's not gonna work. You're going to you are not an expert, you are not working on civil political rights, women, climate change and all that. So it is very important. We've seen how those state reports attracted civil society to put what we call a shadow report. So there is a shadow report now that the Angolan civil society has been busy with or have submitted to the African Commission. And recommendation, there's what we call concluding observations. After that submission of the civil society shadow report, the Commission sits and develop a plan of action of some sort, which is called the concluding observation. So we need to take that concluding observation, each organization selecting their area and using those outcomes for their own advocacy at a national level. So this is very, very important. And I wanted to mention that the 4 activists under detention that are incarcerated, I think continuous lobbying and sending appeals to the African Commission so that even the country rapporteur speak about it, raise it, put it in their country report. You need to know who is your country rapporteur, because you make your life easy. You do follow-ups with your country rapporteur. So that information is there, is available online. And Kutakesha and partners, I think they have that. And then the exchange program that I think Lucia mentioned she was running, there have been a number of activists from Angola coming to the African Commission. I remember there was another exchange program in South Africa. However, she mentioned that some of those activists are nowhere to be found. People have not come back, people have disappeared. So I think Hannah is right when she said that we need to be serious about taking this work. It requires a lot of resources, strength, commitment as well, and consistent. You don't come in today just because your issue was not prioritized, you do your own thing. So if you act like that, then the process is it becomes very, very slow and long. And then regarding the national security reason that they usually use to protect the security of the state by coming up with some of the laws. We've seen that happening a lot during COVID-19. And the African Commission adopted a resolution, and the NGO Forum as well. There are many resolutions that, so now what we do, Hannah, you didn't even mention that you just come back from Geneva, where you're pushing some of the resolutions that we adopted at the NGO Forum for the citizens of Sudan. So that process does not only end where we are in Africa. You can take the same resolution. So there was a pressure group that was in Geneva, and there are some adoption of some resolutions there, which the activists working on Sudan can share. But we do have a resolution which the African Commission is speaking and guiding the state how to go about developing laws that protect the national security and the interests of the citizens. And then also, issue of resources, as Hannah has mentioned, we come together in the partnership. I think there's partnership here. You know, we work together, we identify the funders, and we continuously submit proposals. There is no government, there is no organization that is just there with resources that can be given to civil society. We have to work very hard. We have to continue. Sometimes we are unsuccessful in securing the funding. So it is very, very important to know that collaborations and working together can result in benefits of getting resources. And I think there was a point about, does the Commission condemn coup d'etats and all that? And I've spoken to it. The countries that have committed their statement, if you go on the website of the African Commission, the Commission does condemn. And the civil society plays a part in sending those appeals, you know, and verification, as Hannah was saying, that we need to have accurate information. So it's very, very critical for that. Yeah. So the other questions, I think we can discuss maybe during lunch or outside, especially those that are directed to the African Commission and to the UN. We can only speak about our experience, but we can't speak about what they do. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
One very important point that we strengthening capacity. Somebody asked about that question, and let me say that it's one of the core activities of the center, and it's geared towards learning more about the human rights procedures at the regional and international level, and to ensure that you are able to engage better with the processes and the different procedures. This is organized at least once a year. And I also see some of the participants from last year's training that Utakesa held here. So in terms of building capacity, it can be done at the regional level, it can also be done in-house and at the national level. So we also have people that we've already trained. You have Emilio and others who've already been trained. And we pride ourselves at making sure that when they go back, they also train others who should be able to engage better. Okay? Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Anna. Thank you,